Welcome to another episode of, Poverty Alleviation. We are joined today by iChongqing and by Mr. Jerry Gray to talk about poverty alleviation here in China. We're going to go for about an hour and we're trying to show you a lot of examples um, to. Sorry, one second. We're trying to show you a lot of examples of poverty alleviation here in China in different parts. So I'm going to bring in, well, the people that are going to be joining me today. So first, start with Eiko. Eiko, good morning. How are you? Good morning. Can we hear each other?
Yeah,
I can hear.
I can hear.
Yeah,
I can hear.
got you.
Okay.
I can hear. Hi,
Eiko, good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning, Mr. Fernando. Hi, this is Echo.
Okay,
And
good. Tell us a little bit about your expertise in this matter.
okay, hi everyone, and I'm Echo Chen. For those who haven't followed us, I'm working as a reporter for iChongqing, which is the official media of Chongqing Municipality. So feel free to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Okay, and iChongqing is like the official press of Chongqing, and Chongqing is a mega city in Southwest China. So today, I'm here connecting with Fernando and Jerry to share with you guys some example of Chongqing's poverty alleviation and talk about what China could offer to the world on solving the poverty problem. I'm glad to communicate with you guys here.
All right, and Mr. Jerry Gray, he doesn't
Yeah,
need an introduction, but we would like an introduction anyway.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for letting me come on the show. And basically, my experience with China and Chinese poverty alleviation is through living here 17 years and counting. I've retired in China, and nowadays I'm a very keen cycle tourist. So I cycle around and spend some time in rural areas, which is the parts of China that the tourists don't get to see, and the parts of China that the journalists don't seem to go to. So I have a kind of a unique view of China based upon those experiences. I think probably I've got about 30, maybe 35,000 kilometers now under my belt as a cyclist throughout China. So, what I've seen, I'm just going to show you a few photographs today and talk about where we've actually been involved or experienced some part of the poverty alleviation. Part of it, some of the stuff we're talking about today is just it's surface. I don't go in some areas. I haven't gone under. In some areas, I have, and I've got some different experiences. But we're going to talk about what I've seen, what I've experienced.
Hmm. From my part, basically, I would have to say that my experience with poverty alleviation um, has been divided in two parts. I've experienced poverty alleviation in the cities, which I've made some videos about how through the decades of me living here, I have seen a middle class come into existence, actually become a reality, and how there is a certain path for people to follow in order to reach that level of income and well-being and yeah, consumption or satisfaction. So once your needs are met, people start looking for having their wants met. And to me, it's important to differentiate then, as I was saying, how this process takes place in the cities and how the process takes place in the countryside. Only until last year have I had an opportunity to go and see how this actually takes place in the countryside, because to me, in the city, it was so gradual that you kind of like don't see it. But when you actually get a chance to go outside, like Jerry has done, and see places that people don't normally go to and see how the changes have taken place, that's really an eye opener, and that is something that has propelled me, has driven me to want to share more and let people know, well, what is actually taking place. So I would like to start with one very important topic that a lot of people don't necessarily agree with, the idea that infrastructure is vital to poverty alleviation. So, Jerry, why don't we start talking about infrastructure and how that relates in your eyes, in your experience, to poverty alleviation.
Sure. I've got a couple of photographs you could probably show. The two photographs of the roads. The G312 it's actually known as the Mother Road of China. And the G312, I first cycled in 2014 through Gansu into Xinjiang. And that in 2014 was the G312. Now, that's a national road. And that's approximately 100 kilometers west of a place called Yumen, which is very close to Jiayuguan. Many people know Jiayuguan because it's the end of the Great Wall of China. In the picture there, if you go back, you can see to the left-hand side of the picture, there is a road. That's the G30. That's a toll road. So the cars that are on there are avoiding the tolls, or they're just going from local towns to local villages and just using it as a side road. For us on cycles, we had no choice. That was the only road that we could use. That was 2014. Now, if we look at the next picture, which was in 2019, where this is exactly the same road in the same county. Now, I'm not going to say that it's the same place. It's obviously not the same place, but I would say it's certainly within 20 kilometers. And this road is what the G312 looks like now, all the way from Shanghai to the border of Kazakhstan. So that's what the road looks like. And it took, I don't know how long it took to do that, but we were traveling in 2014 across stretches that were brand new onto stretches that were basically dirt. There was one point where the road simply disappeared into the desert, and we had to literally pick up our bikes and walk up the embankment, put them over the top of the fence line, and cycle down the toll road. And the police saw us and didn't bother about it at all because they knew that the road was so bad underneath. So that was how the G312 was. 6 years later, so 2014, all the way to 2019, just 5.5 years, less than 6 years, it went from being a pretty shitty dirt track, to a 2-lane, absolutely superb highway. And you can see this is really a G312 road in 2 different years. So once you've done that, then you can start moving products around. And just as an example, a few years ago, my wife and I, 2 years ago in 2019, my wife and I were in Xinjiang. And at the side of the road, we decided to stop and buy some melon. And they were delicious, fantastic. Now, of course, you've just ridden 100 kilometers and a melon is fantastic. It's great. And we were chatting with the guy and asked him, is it possible to send these to my wife's family in Guangdong? And he said, yes, it takes 36 hours. And we bought some, had them packed and sent. And not the following day, but the day after that, my family were eating them for lunch in Guangdong. That can only happen when you have 2 things. One is the infrastructure for the roads, and the other one is the unsung hero of the poverty alleviation, which, in my opinion, is the express delivery companies. You like that?
Whitey man.
Yeah.
They are fantastic.
They are heroes.
They're cheap, they're efficient, and they're very fast. So getting fresh fruit from the field in Xinjiang province all the way to the table in Guangdong in 36 hours. Can't do better than that.
One of the important things to understand about this is that building an infrastructure of distribution like this in a country the size of China is incredibly complicated and difficult, but at the same time, it's a huge driver of poverty alleviation because it gives job and employment to a lot of people in those villages. It's always a chain, right? So you go from this person to that delivery center to that delivery center, and a whole bunch of people are getting employed, getting jobs, getting income because of this. So it's one of those marvelous things that China has accomplished. Well, they don't get too much credit on international channels like this. So this is a good opportunity for
They don't, but I've just noticed a comment
them.
here from Hang Tua. It's a good comment, very valuable comment as well. It says that Thailand have requested some Chinese experts to go down to the northern Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai area. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic idea. And by the way, the same guy asked why I don't go in the Tour de France. They're too fast for me, or I'm too slow for them. But yeah,
All right.
it's a fantastic idea that China can now spread this. And what they do, you made the comment that it's very complicated, but they make it very simple by going back to grassroots level. Every single village, every single town has its own experts and handles its own problems independently. And that's the important thing. Each village, so for example, in Shaoguan in Guangdong province, a couple of years ago, my wife and I were helping a family to send their kid to school, or my wife was, not me. And we went out to visit them, and they said, we don't need you to help us next year. They had gone from being very, very poor corn growers to not wealthy by any stretch, but more comfortable chicken farmers, because someone had come in and said, this land's not very good for corn. You're not growing enough, but you can use it to do chickens. And the government, local government, gave him 60 chicks or 200 chicks. And when we were there, he had like 6,000 chickens. And this had all happened in the space of 2 years, from the time we visited him 3-4 years ago to the time we visited him last year or the year before. And now they don't need our help. So my wife was helping the daughter who needed a school uniform, school bags and books and things like that every year. And it was just a Chinese New Year thing that we did. We went and gave them enough cash to do that. It wasn't very much money, but it helped them. Now they don't need help. So my wife has redirected that to another place where it does need help.
Eiko, what is your perspective in terms of infrastructure being important for the development? Are there any examples in Chongqing that you could tell us about?
Yeah, and I have a example, a video that this place, a Fengdu River, a long river. It's like a little village in Fengdu County.
Mm-hmm.
Chongqing has like 38 counties and districts, and Chongqing is also like most places in China is a mountainous city, so with
Mm-hmm.
limited cultivation areas. So this place used to be an old industrial uh, place in Chongqing, but now they transform this place into something very green ecology industry area. And I think that
Okay.
really needs the development of the infrastructure. And we have more example for this, but first of all, I
Let me
wanted to
show you
show
the
you
video then.
this. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
As environmental protection has become a major political and societal issue related to people's livelihoods, the mission to restore the site of clear waters with rich aquatic life, green mountains and shores has entered a new era. This objective is exemplified by the Fengdu County section of the Long River, which has been listed among the first batch of 17 national demonstration areas for lakes and rivers. A major project for environmental restoration in the Long River Valley is the demolition of Xinwan chemical plant and adjacent cement factory. While the process of landscaping the former site is still underway, the clear emerald waters set off picturesquely against the scenery of wooded karst precipices. Sanjian Township in the Long River Valley of Fengdu has a claim to fame based on the famous stone Jiushigo 9-gully bridge, which spans 140 metres across the river and is still in use today. In November 1977, the 9-gully bridge won a major national scientific prize for the achievement and was commemorated by the issuance of an 8-fun stamp released by the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications nationwide. On December 22nd, Luchunba village of Sanjian Township, Fengdu County, was bestowed the award of Top 10 Most Beautiful Ecological Villages in China at the 2020 Boao International Summit held in the tropical province of Hainan. The whole village covers 6 square kilometres with a land forest coverage rate of 95% and 1.5 square kilometres of protected wetlands. 10 characteristic homestays run by local villagers have opened in the village and have received 25,000 tourists since April 2020, earning a combined revenue of 5 million yuan through tourism. One fun example is the unique and intricately designed Flower Creek Kitchen, which has exploded in popularity online and where tourists flock to experience this must visit location.
That's very interesting. Very, very
Impressive.
cool. Um, well, I would like to add a little bit before we move on to other aspects of poverty alleviation. There is a very popular saying in Chinese. You might correct me if I'm getting it wrong, but they say that if you want success, first you need to build a path to it. And that's why it is so important to connect the towns. One of the things that the government actually announced when they announced, well, we have eliminated poverty in China, was the fact that they had built roads into every village in the country. Um, the importance of this achievement it cannot be praised enough. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Guizhou, a place that I visited earlier this year. Guizhou, if you know a little bit about the geography of China, China's like split into two main regions, and there's a diagonal line across from the northeast to the southwest, in which the plains and the rivers and the rolling hills become really high, steep mountains with not much agriculture possible. Well, Guizhou is kind of like at the gate of this region of China, and it is known for being a province. uh, the locals say that you cannot walk 1 kilometer without finding a mountain. So it's just very, very isolated from the rest of China because of that. And that led it to be one of the poorest provinces in the country. So when I went earlier this year, people were telling me about how important building ways into Guizhou and out of Guizhou has transformed the province into a hub for many things. Number one, big data. Large big data companies are moving into Guizhou and Guiyang to set up businesses there for just developing the region and bringing new jobs and high level jobs that require certain skills, but also to empower the farmers. Peppers are a very important part of Guizhou, chili peppers, and they have developed their farming to the point where now they can sell and set the prices of chili peppers all over China because the quality of their chili peppers can now reach all over the world. So I would like to show you first a couple of clips from Guizhou. One, it's a region around the Wujiang River, which is a 2 kilometer span of the Wujiang River over which, over the lifespan of my life, they have built three new bridges. It used to take hours for people to go from one place to another because one bank of the river to the other because they had to follow the mountains and just line up to try and cross the bridge. Now, with five bridges, one of them being a Gautier, a high speed railway. So let me show you this very, very short video and we can talk about it as we see it. So these are the five bridges over the Wujiang River in the Guizhou. That's the first river. That's the second river. It doesn't have a toll. That was the original river on the right, the original bridge on the right, and down at the back you'll see the high-speed train. This is all my footage that I took, so this is just me showing you what I was able to see. That's the high-speed train coming out of that tunnel, coming into that tunnel. Sorry. So it's remarkable to see how in a matter of 20 years, 30 years, they have been able to change a province that was isolated from the rest of the country and isolated to the of the world in a certain way into a hub for big data, high technology, and distribution of well the agricultural products. So that to me is something that I wanted to share with you, and it's an example of well how these projects of poverty alleviation requires infrastructure. These are not necessarily handouts to people. A lot of people misunderstand this. This is just giving the conditions so that people can help themselves, creating the conditions so that people can build a better life for themselves. And these highways, these roads, these bridges are part of that. So tourism flows in and products flow out.
Yeah.
That's great, Joe. That's the first part that I wanted to share with you. Why don't we move on into more localized examples? Um, I have an example about some communities that have been improved. But Jerry, do you have any examples of communities that you've seen actually change over the years
Many.
as you
Yeah.
bike
Yeah.
around?
Um,
So,
I mean, the best way to look at my experience is again, I mentioned this as surface experience. I cycled through. You talked about Guizhou being one of the poorest provinces in China. Well, Ningxia was even poorer. It's not a province; it's an autonomous zone, autonomous region. It's the Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region. I think that was the poorest. And I've got a couple of pictures from that area. Now, I'm not entirely sure if these are borderline pictures. They're either in Gansu or Ningxia, but they're in an area that was totally impoverished. And if we can show the pictures of the cave dwellings first, and
mhm,
you can see these. There we go. These are actually, or were actually, homes. People live. You can see one of them's got a front door, and these are actually the homes where people used to live. Now, you can see on the road there that this picture was taken in 2019. You can see this is a brand new road outside. If we go to the next picture, you'll see what's happened in that region since the first time I went there in 2014. People were living in homes like that. These two pictures are within a few kilometers of each other. They're both they're both taken in 2019. In 2014, people used to live in those caves, in those cut-ins into the cliff face, as it were. Now you can see at the front, you've got some adobe style. These are the former dwellings, and behind them, you've got 5 or 6 story. Now, they're limited to 5 or 6 story because they don't put elevators at that level. So these are quite difficult for people who are older to live in. So some of them, and I've noticed this when you cycle through, some of those cave houses are still occupied. There's people still living there. And it's a choice. They don't have to move. They are given an apartment. The apartment is theirs. If they like, when it's hot in the summer, they can go back to their cave because it's cooler in there and they prefer it. And their society is not changing so much. There's always a danger when you take people out of this method of living. First of all, you're improving their health, you're improving their sanitation, you're improving their level of comfort, but you're taking away something that has been in their heritage for potentially generations, and they may still want to go back. So they can. The younger people won't. The older people may want to go back, and they can. That's why one of those still has a door on it. So somebody is still using it,
mm,
probably not as their full-time home, but as their part-time home. And that's one of the things that really worries me about the societal changes. When people say, oh, they tore down all these old buildings, which were beautiful. Yes, but they've improved the sanitation, they've improved the health, they've improved the longevity of life. The mortality rate is better than it used to be because of the health conditions, the sanitation conditions. And that's the most important thing that I've seen. And there was one thing that I wanted to just correct you on a little while ago. You said China has alleviated poverty. It's removed absolute poverty. There is still a
mm,
very long way to go before China removes poverty. I'm certain they're working on it, and it will
yeah.
happen. There are still a lot of very poor people in China, but they're no longer in a position where they have nothing. They can. Every single person in China now has a road going into their village. Every single person in China has ability. And Echo wants to ask a question.
Yeah, as you
Yeah, Eiko
mentioned.
was asking me,
Mhm.
sorry, when we were preparing for the show, you were asking me about um, what is the understanding of poverty. So,
Yeah.
Eiko, what was your question?
Yeah, that's my question because Jerry just mentioned the extreme poverty. I just want to know that since we achieved this a goal. China has achieved the goal that rapid development in step with large-scale poverty alleviation, and economic transformation in step with the elimination of extreme poverty. So I want to know your definition about poverty before you visit China. Before you visit China.
Okay, I'll start with this one. For
Mhm.
me, poverty was always when you look at it, you say, okay, what is the definition, the international definition of poverty? Oh, living under $1 a day. Um, but I don't think that that actually reflects the reality of, well, what poverty is. In China, for example, you could have people working at factories that earn less than $300 a month. So let's say $10 a day. And would you consider that person poor? Now, what about the farmers that don't work at factories? They just have a household, they have a piece of land, and they have a roof over their heads, and they have the ability to get produce from their land. They might not get money or income, but do we consider them poor? They have
Mm.
sustenance and they have a roof over their heads. So it, the understanding can be very simple, can be simplified by saying, oh, just $1 a day. If you're below that, then you're poor. And that was I came to China with that idea. But when I first started seeing that, well, people actually get to work the land and live and eat from the produce. And the people who move to the cities, they are provided with room, board, food, clothing, and a salary.
Mm.
Then you start wondering, okay, is that really poor? Because if you go to San Francisco, for example, you could get a job that pays $3,000 a month, but you're probably poor.
Before.
There are
Yeah.
people who cannot save a single dollar on a $3,000 a month salary. They cannot save because the cost of living, because the infrastructure is not there to support people.
Mm.
That's the main thing. So this high school graduate or middle school graduate who moves from the countryside to the city and gets a job at a factory, well, he's getting $300 a month, right? But he can actually save 250 a month if he wanted to.
He's also
And
getting a
what
dormitory
happens
to live in and a canteen to eat in.
exactly because he
Mm.
is provided with resources and support systems that allow him to
Mm.
save $250 a month. That becomes
Correct.
$3,000 a year. Over 5 years, that's, well, $15,000 that he can invest into his education or invest into a small business. And little by little, he will reach higher levels of the income bracket, helping him, creating a path, creating a blueprint to enter the middle class of China. Within 10 years, when he gets married and his wife has had the same experience, well, now there's two incomes at, I don't know, $1,000 after 10 years. So now they're in a position that is enviable to a lot of people in developed countries that look at China as, oh, you guys live in abject poverty. There is a path for them. And
Mm.
I define poverty right now. I need to talk about dignity. I need to talk about the dignity of people. I need to talk about dreams. When you're poor in your soul, when there is no future for you, when there is no path for you, that's real poor. That's my take. That we do not see in China. Jerry, what's your take?
Very similar. I believe it's far too simplistic to say that poverty has a dollar value anyway, because the dollar is worth more
Mm,
in different places. So I think $3.55 is the World Health Organization. China says $1.50 or 7 or 8 RMB a day, whatever the number is, I don't know. But the fact is this: there are three pillars in poverty alleviation. There are three things. Does the person have enough food? Does a person have proper clothing? Does a person have a roof over their head? If they've got those three things, then they're not in abject poverty. So the money value isn't important at all. What's important is, can this person live with the food? Can this person get an education? And can this person be sheltered from the weather? And once you have those three things, the rest of it is all let's add to that. And there are targets and goals, and the government has them. I did research on this a few months ago, and wrote an article about this. It's worth looking into a little bit deeper. For sure, it's far too simplistic to say poverty means people have less than $1, $2, $10, because if you're living in Eritrea in the desert and you've got $10 a day, what good is that to you? You can't buy anything. If you're living in Western China and you've got $10 a day, you're living pretty well. And that's a fact. You're living pretty well on $10 a day, but you're not living pretty well on $10 a day in New York or Los Angeles. I remember showing a video to my wife a few months ago of the Los Angeles homeless. And it was horrific seeing how these people lived. And these are ordinary Americans who don't have a home. They're living in cardboard boxes and tents. And I showed this to my wife.
They have jobs. Some of them
yes,
have jobs.
And they have. Some of them do. Some of them don't, of course. But my wife's comment was amazing. She said, "Why don't they just go home?" Now that's the difference between the West and China. In China, everyone has a home to go to. Now, you may not want to go home. You may not want to live with your parents. You may not want to live in your home village, but your home village will support you. If you are homeless and on the street, the police will find you, give you a ticket back to your hometown where someone will meet you, and they will then help you to rehouse you, even re-educate you, and not allow you to be homeless again. Now, the people who are homeless in China very often have fallen through the cracks in the social security net. But in fact, there is very little homeless. Now, I challenge anybody. They will say to me, but there's thousands of homeless people in Guangzhou, for example, and they're sleeping under the roads and they're sleeping on the side of... Well, they are, but they're migrant workers who have chosen to save money by sleeping rough. And they've got their little communities there. They have a home. It may be in Guizhou, it may be in Hunan, it may be in Sichuan, it may be anywhere else. They have a home. They choose to save money by sleeping in a tent under the road and going to work every day. There's the difference.
Yeah. I think that one thing that is important to really shed a light into is how personal these projects are, how individual this project. I mean, think about the size of China. Not one measure fits all. It's impossible.
No.
So they have these cadres, right, that we've known of, that go into communities,
Bureaucrats.
that go into villages, that that actually figure out, and it's their job, and they come from different provinces and they are assigned, okay, you're going to work over there, you're going to work over there, and their job is to find out what can the people in this village do, what would work for them. So I would like to show you a couple of examples of two communities that I saw improving their quality of life with the help of these cadres. So first, I would like to show you something in Wuhan. I find very interesting is how personal these projects of poverty alleviation are. As I mentioned in another video, what they do is they come and they talk to the family. This is a picture of the family, and they own this business. They talk to them and they find out what are their strengths, what do they know, what can they do to help, and together they put together a plan for this particular household. That's your government at work, improving your life. It's money spent on bringing people out of poverty, as opposed to waging wars around the world. How easy it is to actually get here. A very important part for tourism. If it's very difficult to get here, then people will not come. Tons of highways, paved roads, zero issues getting to this place. This is how infrastructure plays a very important role in developing these villages all over China. Yeah, this is, for example, the access road, paved one way, so it's a circular road. Oh, this looks like a hostel. This actually looks like a hotel. Check it out, here at the back. Let me see if I can show you the picture. This is the way this house looked before, and this is the way it looks now. Huge difference, huge improvement in the quality of life for the people. And because it looks like this, it will attract tourism. If it looked like this, people would probably not come here. So this effort, this investment that the government and cooperatives and private enterprises or private investors make is what enables these people, this village, to come out of poverty and to have better conditions for themselves. All right, so that was a very short example in Wuhan. I went there earlier this year, and I was just surprised to see, well, how many people go. It was like the middle of a holiday, and how many people go to these places to have a cup of coffee, to have lunch, to enjoy the local cuisine, to buy handcrafts. It's just a fantastic place. And well, it wasn't like that before. I have another example, but I don't know if you guys have anything else that you would like to add before this, because I have another community that I would like to share with you, but I would like to ask you guys.
Echo been very quiet recently.
No, I'm really amazed by this content that you share, because I haven't been in those places. And as a girl that grew up in the city, I know fewer about these situations in the village, but I can share some my one of my live stream that I visit in a little town that they build the industry of this paper corn cultivation to help this place to help the farmer to increase incomes. But I can show it later. But first of all, I want to talk about the thing that Fernando just shared. It's about, you said it was very personal. The way that they help this place to get away with poverty is very personal, because the poverty alleviation is always a major task for Chinese government, but Chinese government use this apply this targeted measures for different groups to know how to help. It's called targeted poverty alleviation. This is like the most important part of this whole poverty alleviation in China. It's like use different measures in different places, not just use one measure in all places. I think that's very important. After all, you witness all these situations in different places. You see they use all kinds of different types of measures to solve those problems in these places. I think that's what I can get from your content, from the content that you shared. That's one thing that I wanted to point out, or I wanted to know if you guys are interested to talk about this when you share your content later.
Can I add something to
Well,
that?
Yeah,
Sure,
of
sure,
course.
sure.
Sure.
Just what I talked a little while ago about Shaoguan, where my wife helped a couple of families. We used to help 3 different families, and now we don't need to help those 3 families. They've all moved on. And the interesting thing was, all 3 of them used to be corn farmers, and that's what we're just talking about. Now, one of them's a chicken farmer, and the others, I'm not sure what one of them was doing, because last time we went there, we didn't get to meet that family. But one of them has turned into a tobacco farmer, and the government gave him the tobacco seeds, because apparently, this is really interesting, the government got the university, local agricultural university from Guangzhou, to come out and do some analyses and work out what was best for each person. So it's not like they say, well, let's do this in this village. They say, what do we do for this farmer? What do we do for the farmer next door? What do we do for another farmer? And so the one family got a number of chicks. I can't remember if it was 600 or 2,000 chicks, little chicks provided to them. And now they have thousands of birds. And I've seen them and been there. Another family were given tobacco seeds, and a machine was sent to turn over all of their land so that they could then stop planting corn, which was not doing very well, and start planting tobacco. And a contract from the government to get the tobacco, because the government buys all the tobacco. There is no independent tobacco sales. The government gave them the seeds, gave them a contract, And now they're growing tobacco and selling it back to the government. And the chicken farmer is also providing chicken meat to the local schools and the local government canteens too. So this is how they're helping. They're not just saying, well, here's some chicken. Here's a contract for the chicken that we're going to buy from you. Here's some tobacco seeds, and here's a contract for the tobacco leaf that we're going to buy from you. That's how it works.
Basically,
I
Go on.
Yep. Sorry.
I just want to add a little information about Chongqing's experiences, because I agree with Jerry just said. Just in Chongqing, there are totally different leading industry in every poverty districts that they including the orange cultivation, peppercorn cultivation, or some, tobacco cultivation. So every district, they have college professions expert to do the research about what kind of industry is appropriate for this area so that they can grow the economic successfully. I think that's what Jerry was talking about. And that's what we implemented in Chongqing. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's good.
I have to mention how important science is in all of this. Farmers are using now 5G technology and big data to get support from experts from all over the country. I would like to show you a very short video that I shot also in Guizhou from again a chili pepper farm. I visited a center, basically a remote center, hours away from this farm, where they could actually monitor every single aspect of the plot of land. So they have cameras where they can actually monitor what's taking place. And at the same time, they have monitors that can control the quality of the soil, the amount of water, the amount of chemicals. And based on daily readings, they give the farmers information like, look, in this particular area, you have to add this particular chemical, or in this particular area you're having this problem, do this, or these plants are a little bit too cold, do that. And they even give them tasks. So I would like to share that video with you, if I may, that was shot in Guizhou in a
You
in a
may.
farm. Thank you. Guys, it has been an amazing experience to be here in this farm and to see how they're using technology of the Internet of Things to actually propel farmers into the future. Everything, all kind of data can be shared with that central server that we saw back in the city. We have driven about an hour and a half on highways and very high mountains and forests to get to this land where the farmer we were talking to was actually working. Now imagine, data can only take you so far, right? You can get a lot of data being sent through the servers using Zigbee technology, which is Internet of Things, and with that data they can monitor a lot of the things, but with the cameras they can actually see what is taking place with each crop. We were seeing the capabilities of those cameras, the zoom. It can actually focus on one particular plant. Now, another very interesting thing is the fact that all the farmers, the thousands of farmers that use this service, each and every one of them has an app, and that app allows them to send reports, photos, videos, messages. There are even tasks that they are assigned by the experts whenever they need to correct any problems that they're having with the crops. Hi. Ni hao. So the lives of farmers are being really helped by this kind of technology. And the most amazing thing about this is that it is free. The services that the government gives to the farmers out here are absolutely free. So there you go, guys. This is something that I wanted to show you, which is, to me, it just blew my mind. Yeah, Jerry?
There's a couple of other things that you may not have even noticed and your viewers may not have noticed. First of all, the solar panel lights there. So
Yeah.
that area is lit up at night, so no one falls off that concrete path, which is the second thing. Now, I can imagine going through there 10 years ago, that would have just been a mud field, and there would have been an embankment which was kind of compacted mud. And when it rains, it would have been a hellhole to travel around. And there you've got a concrete path running through the fields, solar panel lighting system, and everything else that you just mentioned. That's pretty amazing, really, considering where it is in one of the poorest provinces, 1.5 hours out of the city. And this is the country that the West is saying is using slave labor to pick cotton.
Not only that, they're also saying that, oh, his big brother. Well, his big brother used the right way.
Oh my
I have
God,
another
yes, we're
video that I
being
wanted to
watched.
share with you. Oh my God, yeah, the crops are being
Yeah.
watched. I have another one that I wanted to show you, and this is you're probably familiar with this one, Jerry. I don't know if Aiko, you've ever heard of a man called Soothworth who works for the BBC. He went to this village. It's called the Cliff Village. This is a village that is so far up the mountains and from the roads that it used to take about a day to go up and down. And there were hundreds of people living up in that village that were completely closed up from civilization. I mean, it was very difficult to get education, to get food, to get supplies, to get services, because they had to climb a rattan ladder. It was so dangerous, so treacherous, and so tiring. Imagine carrying just, I don't know, 5 gallons
You're
of water.
shocking. Yeah.
It would be impossible. So what the government did is they went there and they had a talk with them and said, like, look, we want to move you out of this area into a new residences down by the city. Um, how do you feel about that? And a lot of people took that offer, but some of them said, no, we like it here. We don't want to go down there. We want to stay here. So the government said, okay, we respect that. Ooh, did I say respect? I thought we were oppression. Okay, we respect your choices. We respect what you want to do, but how can we make it better? So they started bringing better services, better utilities, water, power, electricity, and they built this steel ladder that I want to show you. So this is a center that is in the village that they built, the new community that they built, but they still have photos of how things used to be. So let me show you this one quick second. So as you can see, this is how the people from the cliff, as they call them,
Oh my God.
used to live. You can see how they used to climb. This is
Seems
what they've
like
done now
totally
for
inhospitable.
tourists and
Yep.
for
Yeah.
the people who still want to live there, because some people have chosen to remain there. This is the state of some of the homes that they had. Those are homes at the top. The state of the roads. This is what they used to do. And in comparison, this is what they have now. This is the communities that they built. They divided into 5 parts. So that's a community that I visited, and the scheme that they have was very simple. They'll give you an apartment, and the cost is 10,000 RMB,
For
and you
each
can get
house.
loans and subsidies per person. So up to the maximum cost of one apartment, and I want to show you this community, which is absolutely beautiful. The maximum is 30,000 renminbi for one apartment, and there's loan and
Yeah.
there's
Can we
subsidies. So
move there?
I would love to. Let me see if I have this right here. Oh, I think I forgot to upload it, but just
Oh,
an
never mind.
apartment, just like any other apartment. Just I think I have it right here. Let me see. I could show it this way.
Mhm. Nice apartment.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It's 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, your kitchen
Yeah. Yeah.
in a gated community. And this
Hot
is worth
water.
30,000 RMB.
Yeah.
Hot water, those heater lights that you get in the north
Yeah.
of China. And that's the other room. This is a 2 bedroom apartment. So this cost 20,000 RMB. How
Wow.
much do you pay for rent? I pay 5,000 RMB a month.
I don't pay rent.
So, oh, you own, okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting to see how different solutions apply to different people in the same region of this Yi minority. They went to the mountains and they talked to the Yi people and said, like, look, how can we help you? Is it possible to build a community? No, we don't want to live. We all want to stay here. Why don't you help us develop some ecotourism? So you have experience with this, Jerry, also the bed and breakfast situations. So
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
show you a project also in this area, but a completely different approach. We're not going to build anything outside of your place of residence. What we're going to do is we're going to improve it, and we're going to
Mm.
allow you to generate income by offering, well, better breakfast opportunities. This is a beautiful community. Let me show it to you guys. So this is what it used to look like. They used to live in the past. And these are the houses that they have been helped to build. You can see here the development of this project and the involvement of the community. They build their own houses with help from
Mm.
organizations in government, of course.
Look at
Is
this.
this all,
Look
is
at
this
the
also
smile on
Guangzhou?
their faces.
Yeah, the smile's good.
Just look at the smiles on their faces.
Well, of course, who wouldn't be happy to be given an opportunity to better their lives?
Yeah.
So it's one of the aspects that it's often when you're talking about poverty alleviation in China, it's kind of like just too deep. Is how personal these measures are, how
Yeah.
personal these programs are, so that they they satisfy the needs and the desires and the wants of the community. It's
Mm.
not an imposition, it's a suggestion. And in the same area, the same minority, you just saw two different solutions. One, well, three different solutions. One, they built the stair, the steel uh, structure to help the people
Yeah.
who decided to stay at the top of the cliff. Still, it takes 3 hours to go up and down today, even with that one. And
Yeah.
then the community that they built at the bottom of the hill, and this other bed and breakfast that they decided to build also where the people live. So it's it's amazing. It's to and people, if I may say, people are always going to say like, "Oh, you're just spewing propaganda." And I said to people, "Excuse me, but all these things that you see not behind me here in the studio, but all these things that you see in those videos, they're
Are
real.
true. Yeah.
They're
Mm.
there. They're tangible.
Yeah.
There's these are no words." And I think that
Mm.
the difficulty that people in the West have is that the politicians and the governments talk and talk and talk and talk, but don't really
Yes.
do. Here,
They've got to do it
they
within
do,
four
and after they
years,
do,
otherwise it'll get scrapped or changed. Mm.
exactly. So
Yeah.
here, after they do, okay, they talk about it, but it's done. It's real. It's true. So if you have an issue with me showing you something that people can touch, see, and benefit from, then that's on you. That's on you.
Mm.
That's my take on all this poverty alleviation and how people are trying to downplay it.
Mm.
Well, Eiko, do you have anything else to share, or Jerry? We have set ourselves a time of an hour, so we're coming
Very
close to
quickly,
that.
can you show the picture of the wooden house in Guangzi? And I'll very briefly support what you just said. That picture, yeah. Um, This is in a town that actually is not the hotel that we stayed in, but these houses are genuine wooden houses made with no glue, no nails, all made with wood slotted together and cut into pieces. Now, this house has been built by the family probably one or two generations ago, and then it's been renovated. Some of these houses are very old and some of them are quite new. The local government has said, if you build a house in this style, and this is in the Longji rice terraces region, if you build a house in this style, we will help you by providing you with all the wood. You have to do the work, but they provide all the wood for you. So you build a house. Then the local government has said, if you want to set aside 3 or 4 rooms in this house, and you can see there's a very, very large house built on 3 levels, so there's plenty of space, we will help you. We will provide you with a builder, and we will train your family in how to manage your house as a bed and breakfast, and you can charge people to come. Now, the deal is, if you get charged to come to this house, what happens is, I've been there and stayed there. The fee is, for example, $300, 300 RMB a night. The householder gets 100. The builder who developed it gets 100, and the government gets 100 back from their investment. The builder's investing, the house, the people who own the house don't pay a cent. They get 100 RMB, 30%, and they get to get free training on how to manage it. Now, when we were there, it wasn't that particular one, but I didn't have such a good picture of our hotel. It's very, very similar. And ours was also a lot harder to get to. It was up 300 and something steps, like your other place. Not quite as hard, but hard enough. And we stayed in this magnificent bed and breakfast. It was as good as a 4-star. And we paid the fee. Now the householder gets paid. We got an incredibly good breakfast the next morning. My wife got a great Chinese-style breakfast, and they said, do you want a Western breakfast? Wow. This will be good. And it wasn't quite what I imagined it was going to be. It was actually a club sandwich for breakfast. But that was okay. It was ham and cheese and tomato and everything in my club sandwich. And it was great. But they've learned how to do this. They've learned how to operate their business. And now they're getting a revenue stream from it. Now, that revenue stream changes after 5 years. So for the first 5 years, it's 30, 30, or 33, 33, 33. And after that, it's 100% to the homeowner. Now, the interesting thing about what the government is doing is they're plowing more money back into the region as well. So that's how it works. And this is in the Longji, the very, very famous tiered rice terraces in the northern part of Guangzi and somewhere very close to the Guizhou border. Fantastic area. If anybody wants to go there, there are highly recommended bed and breakfasts, and they're easy to find on Airbnb.
Well, gentlemen, and our viewers and our followers, and Iko and Jerry, I'm very, very satisfied with what we have done today. It's very important to share with people what poverty alleviation really is about. It's not talk. It's not something that you hear Xi Jinping read on camera on international forums and things like that. This is stuff that's actually taking place, and this is stuff that if you're here and if you're willing, you can go and see and experience and actually attest to it. So that's what I wanted to do with this show, and this is what we decided to do today. And I think that we were able to show you different regions, different parts of China, different projects, and give you a better picture of what poverty alleviation really is like here in China. So I think that if there are any questions or anything, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below of our channel or Eiko's channel. Jerry, you have your Twitter account, right? So people can follow you there. And And if you guys want to know more, then let us know if there's interested in what topics or what specific aspects you would like to talk about, and we would be more than happy to, well, call the team and talk about poverty alleviation a little bit more, or any other topic that you would like. So, guys, that's all the time we have today. Eiko, any final thoughts?
My final thought is I want to add one little question. My final thought is
sure.
about China's sharing the experience on this poverty alleviation, right? But I think in the beginning, I want to ask you guys about this, this question. But I think after this content that you shared, that I witnessed this situation in all China, I think I can see the experience is all about the future. It's not about the government giving money to these areas, to the people. It's about the future. It's about what the next step of this alleviation, poverty alleviation in China. It's about maintain policy stability during this transition period. It's about improving education level. It's about train about, like Jerry said, it's about training you to manage your facilities, your poverty, your, how to say this, your industry in this area. It's about help you to increase your income. It's about helping people to do that, not just giving money, not just add this infrastructure construction in this area. Not just that. It's about the future, about what's the next. I think that's what I really concerned about this content that we shared and we talked about. And I think I found the answer. That's it, the future. Thank you guys. Thank
Sure.
you guys for sharing this with us.
Yeah, one
Sure,
finishing
Jerry,
point.
any final thought?
I like to get the last word in. One finishing point, exactly what you just said. China does not give out stimulus checks. China gives people a fishing rod. They now know how to fish so they can feed themselves for life. That's the difference.
It's a government for the people.
Yeah.
Democracy. What about that?
We call it
That's not
people.
right,
Yeah, in China we call it people-centric philosophy.
Look,
Very
People-centric
much so.
philosophy.
Very much people-centric
Yeah,
philosophy. That's exactly what it is.
all right, guys.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so very much
Great
for
talk today.
joining us, for watching
Thank you.
us. Make sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe to all our different channels, and well, until we see you again, take it easy and bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Remember to like and share. Okay.